Good day, everyone. Richard Copperthwaite for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. It's been a while. Nice to be back on the air, and nice to have St Albans Mayor Tim Smith back with us. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Just fine. Nice to be back in town. I guess road trips for both of us, especially me. A month-long road trip's pretty pushing it a bit for me, but sounds like you folks had a good time on the Outer Banks, one of my favorite spots in the world. But anyway, good to have you back again. We're taping this show on Wednesday, April 27th. I guess we could start with the Maple Fest, which I just missed by a few hours, but it sounds like a pretty successful return for the Maple Fest.
I, too, missed it.
So you guys just got back
We were just getting back as well. But all reports are that it was a huge success.
Yeah.
The parade crowd was great. The vendors, I heard, had one of their better years.
Weather was cooperative, I guess.
Weather was great as well. So I think all in all, I think the organizers are happy with the outcome and definitely looking forward to next year.
Good. Boy, so 2 years plus into the pandemic, which never seems to totally go away, but any noteworthy pandemic news? And again, I realize you guys have been away for a bit, but...
Yeah, no, I think... I just had this conversation last night. I think the numbers are worse than what get reported.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree that people are getting getting COVID and doing the over-the-counter test, but not calling it in.
Right, I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people.
Because I've been amazed at the number of people that I've encountered that have it or just got over it, and that's just within my limited circle.
Really? Wow.
So I think the numbers tend to be, and you hear varying reports as to what the impacts have been, in terms of the length of illness, the symptoms. So it's holding true over the last 2 years that's what we've seen, right? Varying symptoms, asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So I think it's still fairly prevalent, throughout the state.
Yeah, I saw a Boston Globe. I just punched up a Boston Globe headline this morning, and the headline was, I think, 53% of Massachusetts residents, and maybe Connecticut, but at least Massachusetts had COVID, and the Vermont percentage was 29%, but I didn't get into the story, but kind of a startling difference but I suspect you're right. Obviously, a lot of people doing home tests, if they test positive, aren't going to bother to tell the state that.
I think that's the case for sure.
Yeah. But at least it sounds like, I guess, not many deaths, not too many serious illnesses. It sounds like it's just kind of the way it is. Yeah. And anyway.
Yeah, I tend to think back quite often about what the scenarios, what the situations were 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
If someone said they had COVID, it was...
Boy, you wondered if it was a death sentence.
Right, and the separation you put between you and them, and the paranoia, which probably in some cases was correct.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that all the things, you couldn't touch a counter, you couldn't touch a doorknob, all that stuff, and how far we've come, mainly because of the vaccinations and whatnot. But I think back as to how we were living, that first year back in March 2020, and how cautious we were around other folks and touching our face and all of that stuff.
Yeah, pretty. Remember doing some of the early shows we did out of City Hall with yourself and then Town Select Board Chairman Brendan Deso. But yeah, that was pretty scary time.
Yeah.
So I guess most people have just kind of gotten used to the situation, for better or worse. But
and I think the vaccination obviously plays such a huge role in that. There's a lot more comfort if I think for the most part the vaccination has proven if you do get COVID, then more than likely that it's not going to be significant impact to your health. Yeah.
So, City, did you come back with any noteworthy new city news after your family's Trump?
No, city's fairly quiet.
I guess the big thing for the city is I guess you've got now the legislature approved the charter change the city voters did at town meeting. So July 1st you'll be able to appoint a city clerk and treasurer.
Correct.
And you taking and have you been taking applications for that for a while?
I have not been involved in that aspect, but I believe I think we want that person in place on the 1st of July.
I bet.
So I'm sure the process, if it hasn't started, it'll be starting very soon.
Right, and presumably the same. I mean, you could do two different people, but presumably I can only assume you'd rather have one person for both jobs.
That's correct.
And hopefully there's been some interest in people applying for said job.
Yeah, I think we actually had some interest prior to town meeting day.
Yeah.
But the job security would not have been that great, right? I mean, we would someone could go for 3 months and then it goes back out for resumes and going through the process.
And indeed, nobody ran a town meeting day for the position.
Right.
Yeah, understanding.
Yeah.
Might be a pretty short tenure. Well, that'll be good to kind of get that nailed down again after kind of being in limbo for a bit.
It'll be nice to wrap that up and move on from that.
Yeah.
It's a long process. We started that. I think we had to have our first public hearing back in December.
Yeah.
So it's almost six months before we can put someone in place.
I guess just listening to the WVMT folks this morning, it gets interesting. Nobody's announced for governor at this point. Obviously, everybody waiting to hear from Governor Phil Scott. And you may have a better sense than me. I'd be stunned almost if he didn't run again. I almost can't imagine that, but we'll see. I guess he's waiting for the official end of the legislative session, but I love the Democrats. Nobody's moving until they hear from Scott.
I've joked that a lot of people have moved already, on the lieutenant governor's side.
Other positions.
Other positions, and I thought it would be curious if the governor decided not to run.
If some of those folks might jump into, that's a good point.
Yeah, how many would change, jump ship and move to run for governor.
Yeah. But you'd expect, you certainly are expecting the governor to run again, I assume.
I have no reason to believe he's not going to run again.
Yeah. I guess he I just heard again from the VMT folks, I guess, again, on the record, he's just saying, I'll tell you when the legislative session's over, but I guess off mic, he apparently made a comment saying, boy, without me or, the Vermont Republican Party's and not exactly a wealth of candidates here, but which is certainly the case.
For sure. I think I had seen a poll where he was 51%. TJ Donovan would have been 38%.
30-something, right.
And then I don't remember who the other two were.
I think Brenda Siegel maybe was run before.
And there's a fourth one as well.
And TJ, as we've probably talked before, you can be sure if the governor happens to announce he's not running again, TJ's announcement will be, 1 second later. In fact, he was just asked, I guess VT Digger's got a story on this. And I guess Donovan said, I've got nothing to announce right now, obviously waiting to hear what the governor's going to say. Yeah. Meanwhile, some of the other races, U.S. House race, pretty crowded, and even the Senate race, I think the Republicans have an absolutely legitimate candidate in Christina Nolan, the former U.S. attorney who, I think I just saw a poll, Congressman Welch was up about 2-1 in that poll, not surprisingly, but Nolan's a very legit candidate.
Yeah, I had attended an event just to hear what her platform was, and my question for her was, why did you shoot to run for Senate and not do the representative route?
Work your way up,
but also the fact that by her running for representative, I thought it gave a distinct difference in candidates. If she was to run against someone from the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I got a good answer for that question, but it is what it is. I just think she would have had a better chance to get to Washington by going the representative route at this time.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because I think we've seen that as soon as someone gets elected, they're not going too far, right?
Right.
And
good luck if you're an incumbent worrying about getting defeated. Again, the governor, we go back to the governor's race 60 years now, when I guess Phil Hoff in 62 beat incumbent Republican Governor F. Ray Keyser Jr. And incumbent governor has not been defeated since then. Pretty tough to knock off an incumbent.
And the only the other one would be the representative, right? Peter Smith got beat by Bernie Sanders, which was huge.
Funny you mentioned that. On my trip, I saw very good friends of Peter, Phil and Joan Knight in New Bern, North Carolina, my old radio boss who I visit on my southern trip every year, and Phil and Peter are very close friends. And we probably talked about this before. Kind of the ironic thing about that was the gun issue killed Peter Smith. The NRA got on him big time for whatever vote it was, and Bernie was smart enough, I think, to keep his mouth shut pretty much.
Yep.
But that was interesting. But yeah, that's how Bernie first got to Washington. Interesting Bernie story I heard on my trip that I guess not officially out of Bernie's mouth, but I see references that Sanders, who made, was pretty impressive presidential candidate in the past, and I guess Bernie's saying, hey, my presidential ambitions may not be over. I guess apparently, supposedly not ruling out another bid in 2 years. So interesting. It's right, boy. He's 80 now, I think, 82, but anyway.
It'll be interesting to see how the Biden term ends up.
Can you pay? I wish you'd probably get back to local stuff. I just can't. It's inconceivable to me almost that Biden would run for re-election.
I think so too.
I keep telling people, I'd like to see a competitive race, and I won't even go to 2024, but I hope Biden, when they get past the midterms, when the Republicans will win back the U.S. House easily anyway, maybe the Senate, but I just hope Biden early next year after the midterms will, instead of saying, yeah, of course I plan to run for re-election, will take himself out of it. That's my hope, and give other folks a chance to make their case.
I think he's, and my wife and I go around about this all the time. I think he's going to struggle to make 4 years.
Yeah.
Both physically and mentally. You see scenarios all the time about his gait. How he's walking, and a lot of fumbles on his speeches and whatnot. I don't think he's going to make the 4 years.
Yeah, that's a thought. Of course, the other day he was asked about immigration with Act 42 and took that to mean a question on COVID. I don't know if you caught that news, but that responded to had a erroneous answer. Republicans are no. I think yeah. That's
and so I think people see that. I think there would be some hesitation to then elect another 80-year-old individual.
Could be.
I think that would be Biden's term. I think will be at the detriment to Bernie moving forward. But
could be.
Time will tell.
Yeah. Locally, have we heard City Councilor and State Rep Mike McCarthy, Casey Toof? Have they announced? Are they running again? Do you know? I think I asked Casey at town meeting. I think he said I expect to, but.
And Casey would have opposition. Lauren Erickson.
Oh, is that? Is that right?
Has announced. I haven't seen it officially, but my wife told me that.
Okay, so a contest there anyway.
Yeah, she lives in Ward 5, of which the new.
Right.
The new districts are wards 5 and 6 in the city, in conjunction with a portion of the town.
So we'll have 3 single-member House districts covering the city and town.
Yep.
And
right. So one will be strictly town.
Right.
One will be strictly city, and then the combined one.
Right. Interesting. And I've noticed, I noticed the new Senate district, interesting, maybe giving Republicans a little hope. We're talking, I guess, Milton, they're finally breaking up the 6-member Chittenden district. So I guess Milton, Westford, part of Essex, and Fairfax. Boy, good luck if you're a Fairfax resident wanting to win a Senate seat. That's going to be tough, but maybe a chance for Republicans to pick up that seat possibly. And I guess one of the West Milton reps, Leland Morgan, I think, is already announced for the Senate.
Yeah, saw that. And I think he seems to do well in Milton.
Yeah.
So I think he has a good opportunity to be elected.
Interesting.
I don't know who's going to run. I haven't heard a name running against him, but I think he has some good support in that region.
Yeah. So, Councilor State Rep Mike McCarthy, presumably running again, or any?
I haven't heard otherwise.
I haven't heard otherwise.
I haven't heard any other names other than Lauren.
Yeah.
So.
I guess, boy, this is, process is coming up. I guess candidates have about another month or so to file they're, nominating petitions, whatever, with the primary in August.
I don't know what, timing's is moving quickly. I don't know how many candidates we had in the Maple Festival parade.
I did see, boy, it's funny, I saw some TV, I got home about 8 p.m. Sunday night, and 11 o'clock news, I think Channel 5 had some footage, and they did show a candidate. I don't think it was a candidate I was aware. I think it was a statewide candidate, but nobody I was familiar with, I don't think.
I think you have, what do you have? You have 4 or 5 running on the
the House
for
race.
Lieutenant Governor for Democrats, so there'll be a primary there, and then you have 2, Senator Benning, and I can't remember who the second one is on the Republican side.
Right, bunch of candidates, and U.S. House for Peter Welch's current seat, bunch of Democrats, and I think 2 Republicans. So yeah, some of these races are a bunch of candidates.
So my guess is that the city was overrun with candidates on Sunday, not Saturday.
Could be.
I know one of the candidates. I actually spoke to Molly Gray on our way out of town last week, and Charlie Kimball. So Charlie, born and raised in St Albans.
Right. Now what, in Woodstock?
Now in Woodstock, but had even after college moved back with his family. Was a bank president at I want to say Citizens, but whatever was before Citizens.
Oh yeah.
So Charlie's familiar with the area.
And again, one of the running for lieutenant governor.
Running for lieutenant governor. Charlie is, like I said, he was born and raised, and he was. I think he said he was coming up for the parade as well. So that's just from a local connection perspective. Charlie has some roots in the community.
That's right. I guess surprising, just try to move on in a second, but there was a UNH poll just came out. I think it was under 300 respondents, but the most surprising, I think that's the one that showed Welch 2-1 over Christina Nolan. No surprise. But it showed Becca Ballant leading in the demo primary. That was interesting to me, about 7 points ahead of Molly Gray. Again, for what that's worth, the polls get way too much attention from the media and stuff, but that was interesting.
Right, I saw that same one, and I was curious about that as well.
Yeah.
I thought Molly had better name recognition for a poll at this time of year. So,
but we'll see how it goes. Back to the city swimming pool. We're still looking for a June opening.
Yeah, June opening for sure. We ran into a minor issue with a supply chain issue and a socket meter for the electrical piece of it. We reached out to our neighbors in Swanton at the Swanton Electric, and they happen to have one.
Oh, really?
So that saved us about 3 weeks.
Wow, really?
And about $3,000.
Wow, that's
so
great.
It was a Reg Bellabo at Swanton. They contacted his guys, and they had one in the shop. So
wow, what a break! That's
that
great.
helped us a lot. All other indications is it's moved. The registrations for swim teams, swim lessons, pool memberships are all. They took right off as soon as it was announced back in early April or late March. So we're excited about that.
Is there a specific June date at this point, Tim, or not?
June 1st has been thrown out, but school's still in session.
Might be a little early.
There may be a lot of trial and error to make sure that everything's running properly, but we're shooting for that early June timeframe.
Boy, big news. And the I guess soon to be former city pool. Anything nailed down on that?
No, nothing at this point. Still the main issue there, and I say issue, but the main topic is whether the town school, or excuse me, the city school chooses to leave the building up.
Right, which might, just bathrooms and stuff might
just
be
bathrooms
abused.
for after school sports, soccer, baseball, whatever, as opposed to running around to the front door and trying to find a bathroom and all that.
The building itself is in okay shape?
Yeah, it's in okay shape. I think the roof was done over a few years back. Plumbing's always an issue. Coming out of a winter, you never know what to expect.
Yeah.
But, it's been there for 35 years. They've got it pretty well figured out when an issue arises. So
yeah.
Yeah, so that one, a lot of activities coming up in the city.
The Kingman Street event sounds cool down on the bottom of Kingman Street.
Yeah.
That's what, early May, not too far away?
Next weekend.
Oh, sorry, even next weekend.
May 7th. So,
wow.
Activities, and then the band goes, I think, 6 to 9.
Huh.
So there's, so that's on the evening of the 7th.
That also happens to be Green Up Day
Green Up
as
Day,
well,
right,
Saturday, May
exactly.
7th. Huh.
And we've had a great response on Green Up Day.
Great.
The new owners of the Subaru dealership, they're bringing a team up, their New England team up, they're gonna participate. We've had National Guard, Community College, Med Associates, so a number of Viatris, which is Mylan, are all participating, so
Yeah, that's great.
could be one of our more well-attended Green Up Days
That's great.
moving forward. And then we're gonna do a Green Up Day at
And you're going to do Hard Act
Hard
for the
Act the
next.
following week on the
Right.
14th.
Right.
You also have the Run for Jim coming up on,
As in coming up this Sunday.
yep, so, I know
Yep, I'll be out there.
their attendance was down last year.
Right.
I gotta believe partly due to COVID, so
Yeah,
they really pushed it hard and hoping to get it back to where it was
Yeah.
pre-COVID.
And it actually sounds like next few days don't sound too great, but the weekend weather didn't sound too bad coming up.
So I'll do the walking portion of that, and,
And as will I.
so it will be, hopefully they have a good turnout, but that's, between all those events, there's a lot going on. You wrapped up the Maple Festival and then move into Green Up Day and,
Yeah.
Kingman Fest and.
And regular summer activities, Taylor Park concerts.
Yeah, I talked to Marty Manhan about the Taylor Park concerts. They're
Yeah.
looking to diversify some of the bands,
Yeah.
to offer some different types of music in the park. So he's doing some homework on that, but all the band schedule, I think, starts mid to late June.
Really. And
runs-
farmer's market at some point in May, mid-May maybe.
Mid-May, usually the 14th.
Yeah.
So that's moving forward, and
Um,
car show for July is on schedule.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's other activities I'm missing, but yeah, it seems like things
Sounds like a good summer coming up.
I haven't heard about the June Dairy Days.
Boy, that's funny. That crossed my mind when I thought about the Maple Fest. I haven't either. I'd
Heard
certainly like to think that would be back, but I haven't either. Been on the road here.
But I give, I thought the Maple Festival Committee with Cecile Brannon being one of the leaders and her team, I thought
Yeah.
they did a nice job. They were conscientious in terms of the bigger events and the public gatherings such as the talent show and arts and crafts, I think, and the antique show. I thought they reduced the size of those and
Right.
out of concern for COVID. So,
Pretty much kept everything outside, I guess.
yeah. So
yeah.
hopefully next year we're back to
Yeah.
somewhat normal.
That'd
but-
be nice.
The parade went off well. I don't think the parade was as big
Yeah.
as it usually is,
Yeah.
but I think they had people who attended said it was very nice. So,
Health of downtown these days.
well, we're real excited about downtown.
Yeah.
Once again, I had heard the Hangry Donut was selling their donuts outside of their store.
Oh yeah.
Still making them at home, but bring them up, and the line was around the corner by the Eloquent page and
really?
down. So, which I was commenting last night. I think donuts is sort of like, I mean, cupcakes were hot like
Huh.
5 years ago. I mean, people were opening up
Interesting.
cupcake shops. I mean, that was sort of the new food on the main street.
So donut kind of a comeback for donuts.
I
here?
think donuts is. I mean, when we were in Florida, we saw Voodoo Donuts, which is a wide variety of exotic donuts, if you will.
In fact, speaking of which, on my travels, I usually bring back a dozen Krispy Kremes, but I could, at the Wawas, I was in the convenience stores, I could just get single, and I didn't even have one, but I would have grabbed a dozen, but I didn't happen to see them.
Krispy Kreme. And then when we were in Outer Banks,
Yeah.
there was Duck Donuts,
Oh, was that Duck Donuts?
where you put your order in and you get a half dozen or a dozen, and they're they're fresh. I mean,
really?
they're still warm
Really?
when you get your box, and
Wow.
those were, and then the other one was donut on a stick.
Oh, really?
And so
Yes.
those were the two that we hit duck donuts, which was excellent. The kids chowed those down fairly quickly. But those were, those two in that area, Voodoo Donuts, Hangry Donut. I think there's, and like I said, cupcakes you could find pretty much any place 5 years ago.
Interesting. And the cycle shop, that sounds like a great addition. That's still on track to...
Bootleggers, I saw they were just painting their sign, painting their background.
Boy, that sounds like a tremendous, especially obviously with the rail trail. Right
Yeah,
there.
no, I think it's gonna be a nice addition to the downtown for
Yeah.
sure. And they're definitely, all parties are engaged. Nourish has opened up their spot on the corner of Kingman and Main. So and there's rumors that One Fed was moving forward with a new restaurant as well.
Oh, really? Be
Yeah.
nice.
So that's, so I think it's gonna be a, hopefully weather holds, it'll be a great summer and a lot of activity.
And speaking of the rail trail, the Moyle Valley Rail Trail getting serious attention these days. So I think they're looking for a completion of the whole thing by end of the summer, I think.
I saw that article. So for those who may not know, the Moyle Valley Rail Trail is 93 miles from St. Jay to Swanton.
Yeah,
It intersects with the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail in
Yeah.
Sheldon,
yeah,
which is 26 miles.
yeah.
So I think for biking enthusiasts, I think that offers up a lot of opportunity for us to attract more tourists to the area and benefit not only St. Albans or Swanton, but the entire county.
Yeah, that's great. Tim, I always ask about USCIS, U.S. Customs and Immigration Services. Any new news on a possible new facility in St. Albans or not?
Ironically, I just got an email yesterday. It had been pretty quiet up till
very quiet.
and this the email I received was from one of the individuals who submitted a proposal,
Yeah,
and he was contacted that that they would be coming up to look at sites.
oh, really?
But the time period is still, I think, before a decision is made. I think he said that it's 9 months out
Really?
before they decide on the final home of the, I still call it immigration and customs services. But
Yeah. And again, the city's got its, I mean, your hope would be on the old Fonda Solo site? Is
Well,
that still
I'm
a possibility?
yeah, I'm torn. I'm not taking any sides. The individual I spoke to has a purchase and sale in the industrial park.
Oh, really?
So that is one option, which is my day job.
And you wouldn't be unhappy with that, obviously.
Wouldn't be unhappy with that, right? So I'm in
Gotcha.
a win-win situation, I think.
Gotcha.
And then the other one is the other ones we're well aware of is the Fonda site
Right.
which the city is working with a developer to develop that as well. So
And the
either one.
the railroad dispatch center is definitely still headed for.
With, Public Works did install water and sewer connections
Oh, yeah.
for the site, so they've got all the right-of-ways, I think, in place, and they're getting ready to break ground here. So.
And there's again remedial work. I know the city got some outside money, but that'll be happening. Is there work that needs to be done before a railroad dispatch center can move, or is that? Oh, and guess what? I wasn't paying attention at the time. We're ahead of time. Hey, great to see you. Sounds like a good summer coming up.
Yep.
Thanks to Tim Smith, the St. Albans Mayor, and Richard Cobrathwaite. Thanks to producer Roger. See you next time.